dedicated to all you dads out there. You are seen and you are appreciated. So let's get it going today on the Spencer Mark Podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Spencer Mark Podcast. This is a show for men who are done performing and ready to start creating. So happy to have you here. I'm here in Boise on a Sunday, and I'm here to tell you that on this show, we believe that life isn't just something that you survive. This is something that you are going to sculpt. This is where shadow meets strength and where burnout can become beauty. Because the most powerful man is the one who makes his life a living work of art. So, on today's show, we are going to go deeper into you out there, dude, the person that is out there providing and the shame that could be happening to you for being a high performing dad, always providing out there. It's like you've succeeded in all the ways the world has told you to do. You got the job, you got maybe that's turned into a great career. You got the house, you got the status, you got the wife, you got the white picket fence. I mean, you think you have everything and everyone tells you should be grateful, but deep down underneath, you're unraveling. And that's difficult. That's difficult to sit with. So this is my attempt to talk to you out there about that. We're going to explore a little bit what this means and ways that we can start to dip our toes into feeling grateful. In the ways that my dog is right outside the door screaming at the Amazon guy, right? But anyway, so why this is really important here to us is to me, this explains so much of what a man is going through. A lot of work that I do is with men, just trying to acknowledge the efforts that they're giving. So there's a real cost to over functioning, where you being needed by everyone makes you forget yourself. So studies show that midlife men are some of the loneliest demographic in the Western world. So, I mean, many of you guys don't even realize it yet, but this episode is here to help you realize that this is a thing and we work through this thing because we got things to talk about moving forward here. So moving on here, let's define some core concepts of what this is going to be about. Is number one is the hidden resentment. The hidden resentment. This is like a subtle, unspoken bitterness that forms when a man constantly sacrifices his needs, his dreams, his authenticity for the sake of other people because no one really ever seems to care or notice. And it just builds slowly over time. This is giving your power away. This is just being so stressed to the max that you're just like, whatever, I'll just take care of it. I'll put it on my back. And so some common examples is like a dad that can resent his kids for quote unquote ruining his dreams. And then when you feel that, you bury that under a ton of guilt. I myself have been guilty of that, or another life ago where I gave all my power away to someone else in their dreams. And that built that growing resentment. I just putting my creativity aside, and over time that just builds up into like snapping back at the kids because they cause you more stress, and then that leads to even more shame. Other examples, like a husband that snaps at his wife for the small things because he feels emotionally unseen, just like a doer instead of someone who is feeling and really living life and doing the best that he can as being that provider. Another thing is like a team leader who resents his job and then coworkers because you really feel trapped by a paycheck. It might be you might be at a really good paying career and got like those golden handcuffs on you, and you feel like you're stuck. You make a good income. You might be paycheck to make paycheck still because you have all the things and the cars, the mortgage, and all of that sort of stuff. And that can make you feel stuck, like you can't get out of the thing. And that causes an immense amounts of stress. And then you feel like you can't even work on the things that you want to work on, being creative because you feel this immense shame and that guilt. right here. And that's what this podcast is about, is like practicing that creativity. It's your birthright. It's not some luxury. So not getting to yourself, you know, that can cause that hidden resentment. And a quote here I wrote here is a classic resentment statement. I do everything for everyone and no one asks how I'm doing. That is a classic resentment statement, you know, and we've felt that way. So, core concept 2 is this emotional numbness. It's this state of disconnection from one's emotions, often developed as a survival strategy to avoid shame, resentment, overwhelm. It's not the absence of feelings, but it's a suppression of those feelings. So, some common examples of feeling emotionally numb, is like the endless scrolling. And this is a thing, man. The endless scrolling the phone at night, you're unable to really feel anything. You're not really feeling any there's not the need to cry or get excited about anything. We've been on this dopamine like fix, just being fed this entertainment over and over again, and we're just losing it. Going through the motions. Work, eat, sleep, repeat. Work, eat, sleep, repeat. Groundhog Day over and over again. That takes away the spark. It takes away the edge of life. You don't see the point anymore because it's so dull. So you just feel just that emotional numbness day to day to day, because you just feel that's your entire life. You're not even you're numb to everything else, all the nuances within your life. Having sex, not feeling that connection even when you're having sex. Like maybe watching your kids play, but not even managing a smile, just gone. So this is something that can happen when we lead to that burnout, where you're not really sad, but you're not happy either. You're just kind of caught in this gray area. So core concept number 2, or 3, actually, it's this grief that you feel deep down that you are suppressing your actual calling in life. Time is ticking away, and if not now, if you're not going to launch that idea now, when are you ever going to do it? Then the guilt of you not doing it kind of comes up again. So it's this deep sorrow that arises when you continually abandon your soul's longing, your calling, and you develop that. What was it? We talked about this last week, is this learned helplessness. But whether it's you wanting to create, explore, teach, heal, build, whatever it is you need to do, you just feel like your life gets in the way of you needing to do those things. And it's you feel like this spiritual death, maybe this hollowness around where your heart is, or just like this sickening feeling, and you're just empty. And this suppression is it's so much pressure, and it's not pressure in a good way. So it's again it's for the man who just wants to be a writer, a craftsman, or an artisan that hasn't touched his gift in years and years. Perhaps it's a dad that secretly wishes that he was maybe guiding others in the outdoors, but he tells himself then, well, that's irresponsible, that's just playing around. But maybe it's the grief of looking in the mirror and not even recognizing really who you've become anymore. You've lost your identity because you've given it to somebody else for so long. Again, that growing resentment. So you feel like this sense of loss is suppressing your calling, giving yourself up. And this shows up in so many different ways, but all of this really falls under this stress, where you don't know yourself anymore. It's just immeasurable stress over time. So getting into our first segment here too, just want to look deeper into like this, the prison of the provider. Now, then this title may be like upsetting to some of you, and for some of you out there that see this as a real gift, or if you take offense to this, I apologize here too. But this is, again, over time, this can feel like a prison we need to break out of. And a lot of times we feel shame if we dare ever call it a place where we're trapped or feeling like a prison in our day-to-day life. Common beliefs like, look, if I just make enough money, then my family's going to be okay. To where it feels like your happiness doesn't even matter as long as everybody is safe, because I can put the world on my back and I can handle it. But as you do that, you're shutting off of these other vulnerable areas of your life, like these other areas where you have an opportunity to grow and to build and create. And this has been brought up here to me before. They'll always even talking to me about this here too. It's like each man is born into this big giant castle, and all the doors are open that open all these rooms to this castle. And then over time, we kind of shut a door to a room where that room might be opening up another possibility of our life. And then over time, as we begin to shut these doors because we don't really want to go into these rooms or lean into the fact that there's an opportunity to learn or to grow or to do something difficult, we just keep shutting these doors around this castle. And pretty soon, the only space we have to walk around in is maybe the size of a broom closet in an entire castle. So we're here to really open up the doors to find ways to get you involved in your life again. So yeah, you are a provider, but you're also a human being that deserves to express themselves through creativity, through beauty, through connection, through community. So we're going to discuss that. So this trap that we feel, it really disregards your emotional needs, like this inner freedom. And there was a quote I got here from the internet from a man in a post saying that he feels like a walking wallet. I'm not like a man anymore. I'm just a function. Any of you ever felt like that, like there, to where you feel like you're just a walking wallet? You're like this hidden or this organic ATM machine. You're more than that. Okay, so that's just to kind of bring up that point of that prison that we build for ourselves. There's more to that, because we become so numb. But now let's just talk about this book. This is an amazing book for anyone who's seen it. I don't know if this is showing up backwards for you out there, like it is for me, but it's a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. And this from Maxwell Maltz. And he really talks about the power of understanding your subconscious mind. And the number one thing he talks about in here is really improving your self-image. And because you are the creator. You are the seer that's inside this body, seeing world as it comes. Like you're sitting in this movie theater and you're watching the movie of your life through your eyes. And he does a really fantastic job of really painting the picture of what this looks like, what self-help can look like. And it really starts with your own creativity and sitting down and writing, with using your words, maybe with a cup of coffee or something first thing in the morning, getting it out there of what your ideal self-image looks like. Because when you get into the deeper breakdown, you've got to understand the key point here is that you can't build a life from the image of a broken one. Okay. So if you're constantly thinking yourself as broken or you need work, your baseline is just a broken soul anyway. We need to go above and beyond. This goes to the people like, I'll start being happy once I lose that 20 pounds. I'm going to ask her out when I feel like I have my finances in order. Well, maybe that's the case, but the thing is you need to put yourself in that image now in your mind. Sorry, I'm learning to be around this microphone now for the first time. Anyway, you need to understand that there's an opportunity there to start acting it out right away. It's like this dress rehearsal. Start figuring that out, having fun with that. Writing it out. What is your ideal self-image? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What do you see yourself doing more of? Where do you vacation? Where are you hanging out? What's your house look like? What does your life look like? Your career? What are the things that you're really wanting to do? Get it out there. Be creative. Because the man who believes that he's only valuable in the world when he's sacrificing will never allow any joy to happen inside of his life. There is more to you than to just be able to put the world on your back and to sacrifice. There's more to being a man than that. So when I read this book right here, I realized when I was reading this that I was always seeing myself as the fat kid and not the man that I had become. I still thought like a little fat kid. I would find myself at the bottom of a box of donuts often. Couldn't have one donut. You gotta have a box. You need to taste all of them. You can't have just one slice of pizza. You need to have all of the slices of pizza. Because my self-image was like I needed this fat. I was this fat kid that needed this validation, that needed to feel safe around food. And I'm gonna go a lot deeper into food and like the insecurities around food and why we eat and the how we eat and all these things. That's a big part of my journey because my self image was poor, and it's only now after 48 years getting better of deep work that I've done with Adele, who's a somatic practitioner. That's an excellent professional to to it's to where I sought solace and I seek counsel in, and it's through her work to where I was able to really kind of anchor down into how I feel, in my body when I put on these different behaviors. And I've learned to titrate into difficult things, to sit with difficulty, to soothe myself when I was feeling overwhelmed, paying attention to those body cues. The work is so deep and it's so necessary in order to really make lasting change and to anchor into a new self image. And so it does take more than just writing it out. You know, it takes writing it out and then acting it out and then becoming that part. And then eventually your subconscious behaviors start to mimic and match up to that identity that you've had kind of naturally, to where it takes less willpower to make that change happen because you're moving in alignment with what that self image is, what the North Star is. So it becomes easier to to have these practices and to practice these practices. So anyway, again, what does that fulfilled father role look like to you? What does it sound like? What does his tone sound like with the kids? How does he react when something difficult comes up? When something fun comes up? So again, feel into that and notice what that's like. So we're going to talk a little bit about the cost of suppressing this. We've done it for years, right? I'm going to take a drink here because my head's getting hot. Talking a lot at the same time as you're being nervous in front of a bunch of people. Anyway, bunch of people. I see two of you out there, and I appreciate you two out there. So the cost of suppressing. So the key point here is not expressing your truth can lead to a dis-ease inside of your body. And this manifests as something physical in your body, in your mind, in your relationships. And I see this often working with men on their metabolic health. The guys that wear the CGM monitors. I'm one of those guys here too, where we measure blood sugar, take a look at the food, stacking food in a certain way in order to bring insulin levels down. And it's so surprising to see what diseases can happen just with not just your food, with understanding like your stress, like not getting enough sleep, the inactivity that we're doing physically here too, that raises blood sugar and can throw your metabolic health out of whack. So if we're not really living our lives and we're suppressing these people that we want to become, the person who you truly are, that leads to that stress, that leads to you not being able to sleep at night, feeling down about yourself, to where you're not moving as much, you're not really celebrating movement, to where you're making poor food choices based on just you wanting to taste something rather than saying, is this food going to nourish my body, my soul, or is this food just nourishing and numbing, like my need to numb and to feel pleasure? Because pleasure is not happiness. Happiness is long lasting. That's pleasure is only going to last like 30 seconds, a minute, maybe 5 minutes. That Bavarian cream donut. I always go back to donuts. Anyway, so let's look into the symptoms. Like again, health. These are the stress related illnesses. Stress is a killer. It really is. Raising your high blood sugar, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, throwing your metabolism out of whack, the way that your body absorbs energy, leads to chronic fatigue. You get gut issues, you have ulcers, it leads to weight gain, and then that rolls directly into your emotions, where you begin to avoid looking at yourself in the mirror, avoiding who you're becoming. You don't want to take pictures of yourself, and it leads to like I've had many anger eruptions because of that suppression. It's like this volcano. And then something triggers me that doesn't warrant that a volcanic type of response, but it's just the buildup, man. It would just pop. And so afterwards, when we do pop, what do we feel? We feel like that apathy, and we feel low, and we're, down that dorsal feeling in our nervous system. I mean, there's more to learn from Adele here, is understanding the states of our nervous system where we get in that fight or flight, you know, um, anger. Then the anger happens, and we express that anger in inopportune ways, and then we feel what? We feel low, depressed, shameful. Why bother? So that, again, that comes at a major, major energetic, cost. And again, that hurts the relationships. You emotionally withdraw, which means it leads to pain. And in my life too, a lot of pain kind of ended up into rolling into porn. TV addiction was huge for me too, and just like checking out and getting into a movie. And it leads to disconnections from your partner, your children, but you just like, I just want to block it all out. I can't handle it anymore, because we just suppressing these costs come at like your energy, they come at your time. Think about like ways that you suppress. What is it costing you? Is it costing you opportunities to, find a new friend? Hell, maybe find an investor about that idea that you had. But it just costs us it just, more than anything, I feel it costs me time outside meeting a new friend, making a new connection, making life happen for you. So, to where you got to understand that if we just keep suppressing ourselves, that no one's really even going to know you. Hell, you won't even know you. I didn't know myself for the longest time. You should have saw I couldn't even dress myself for the longest time. I didn't even know what I wanted. I gave myself over to an ex-partner who just thought I should just dress goofy and wear this purple paisley bandana and these horrible yoga pants and this tank top all the time, and like try to be cool that way just by being weird. I didn't even know who I was. I had no sense of myself. I just gave it over to someone else. Do you think this is good? Because I think that's good. If you think I look good in this, then that's what I'll be. And it didn't work. Now I'm just trying to keep it simple. You see just a white shirt, glasses sort of thing. Anyway, finding your style. It costed me from finding my own style. So it's like you're slowly disappearing. Like, you've seen Back to the Future, man. Like, when Marty's had the picture in his hand, picture of him and his brother and his sister all vanishing when, when maybe he was making out with his mom at the time. It was kind of gross, but that was the movie. I'm just saying, you just seeing yourself disappear from the picture of your own life. That could be a shame, just like Back to the Future too. Anyway, so let's okay. We're done talking about all these costs. Let's get into some real stuff. Let's look at the openings here. Because with every situation where you see a problem, there is an opportunity. There really is. So let's look at that. So again, I want you to understand that if you're feeling this way, you don't have to completely torch your entire life and start from square one. No one wants to do that, because that doesn't feel safe and it's not responsible. You can't just quit your job and your career because it just sucks, and maybe it does. But we've talked about this last week about titrating, just dipping a toe into something new and to where you feel safe into that. So we're going to titrate our way to the truth here. Let's just work this in. Again, titration is just, they're tiny doses of change. So, you can start with like one truth telling conversation with your partner. Hell, maybe if for you to come up with a business idea, it's just one solo hike, spending some time with yourself, having some solitude. It's extremely important for men, extremely important for everybody. It's not just men too, but maybe that speaks to our inner Walden here, our inner Thoreau of, being a man out in the wilderness. Perhaps it's just one journal entry about what you're feeling. That's just one small step that you can take for yourself, as one opening to healing. Because if you feel that you can handle that, if you can handle it's not a big thing to just do one small little thing like that. And then if you feel you can do that, then maybe you can build on and practice one more thing. But what does it look like? Maybe you want to do it like this side hustle, or you want to have a YouTube channel, or you want to do something. You want to have maybe your own website. Maybe it's not quitting your job and then diving into directly into building your business. Perhaps it's just like picking your URL, um, getting a Squarespace account. Perhaps this is not paid for by Squarespace. Maybe Wix. Maybe you're one of those, have one of those really geeky, weird friends that does WordPress and does it the old-fashioned way. I'm not sure. No judgment. So another thing that we work on here too is things. I think this is just so important, and what's so fascinating is the shadow work, the things that we repress or hide or deny within ourselves. Or those things that, again, they build up over time if we don't turn towards those and integrate that into our being. So again, these repressed parts can come up as anger, right here, grief, shame, this guilt. And I want you to know that we look towards those in the work that we do together, not as like enemies, but they really are keys to understanding ourselves and to truly loving ourselves. Because all of these things that we felt, the anger is not always bad. Sometimes there is healthy anger. We need to be able to turn towards that and understand why we've leaned on anger. And maybe we leaned on it too much, obviously, but we need to understand that there's a purpose for that. And your anger is unique to you, and it's protected you. And it's a part of who you are, to feel thankful for that. Perhaps having too much grief, perhaps, it allows you to feel. There's no reason to have shame about that. Maybe your creativity, you're ashamed about your own creativity. That's so important to finding flow, to creating new neural pathways in your brain that opens up new parts of your neocortex to where you imagine and you can dream and build something new inside of your life. You can find a way through things. The shame, sometimes we feel shame. Again, we're ashamed of being ashamed. And that shame could allow us to, in small doses, maybe provoke a real change within us. So everything that but just an idea here is that everything that you really dislike about yourself or you try to hide, make a list of that. Like for me, it was like being this asshole, for the longest time. I'm a great asshole. I'm really good at it. So, and for me to say that right there, that took a lot of work for me to say, hey, I'm good at being an asshole. I really am. Because there has been times in my journeys throughout life to where I had to be an asshole in order to get through a dangerous situation. We traveled to Europe, Japan, all kinds of India, all kinds of places to where people are trying to pull one over us. And I was with my family at the time and 2 small children. And it's like, I needed to show that I am not to be screwed around with, so there was a place for being an asshole, not all the time, obviously, but that's what I had to do in order to kind of make peace with these parts that I've trying not to become. Because if you continually try to not become the thing that you're suppressing, it still comes up in the most inopportune ways, man, at the most inopportune times. So we integrate all those parts of our shadow to live that full life. And you think about it, and again, I say this often, it's no different in art pieces to where you need that charcoal. If you're working with charcoal, you need to draw out that shadow in order to bring to light what you want to be seen. The gold is deep inside a dark mind. The best water is deep inside the earth where it's dark. All the best thoughts originate inside the brain where there is no sunlight. So integrating your shadow, something we work on. Now, embodiment, using your body to speak the unspeakable. This is the work Adele does as a somatic practitioner, to do the breath work, to feel the buildup, perhaps in the middle of your chest or in your belly, or feeling your shoulders as they tense up if you're nervous. Again, paying attention to the bodily cues that give us insight into what our thoughts are, how our emotions are being tended to, the amount of hormone that might be pumping through our blood at the time. Finding ways to settle in, to relax, and tuning into that part of ourselves. This is what yoga has really taught us here too, as I continue to teach in our local studio here at True North. It was just a wonderful experience to just get back into teaching after some time off and to just move with people. That's the true embodiment of like leaning into difficult things, practicing your flexibility, working with resistance training. And I do that at the gym too. Like working with resistance and working with weight is a complete perfect metaphor for life. We learn to take on more shit, more weight, and progressively get stronger by learning to manipulate it and move it. But this, guys, we might be taking on too much weight, too much too much, to where we need to unload the bar, and we need to pay attention to what our cues are telling us, our body cues are telling us. Like, I need to rest this day, and I'm going to go out for a walk. I'm going to go out into the woods. I'm going to grab an ice cream. I'm going to go out for a burger. Whatever you got to do in order to take yourself out on a date, just yourself. That's just an opening to your healing. That's what you need, without the guilt. And just know that everything that you're doing for yourself directly falls in line to taking care of those people that you care of anyway. It's like the human heart that has to pump blood to itself first in order to take care of everything else. And I want you to think of yourself as the same way. You need to care for yourself in a way that you can live free of a dis-ease in your body, your mind, your soul, your emotions. And that's going to be passed down to your children and your spouse. And then you can lead from example that way, free of any sort of guilt or shame in that moment, because you've incorporated, guilt and shame, and you accept all those things as a part of being human. So again, be creative here. Creative, again, is not a luxury for the privileged. It is medicine for your soul, man. So let's just work on, what does this look like to reframe all of this. Again, choosing yourself, again, is choosing your family. Choosing yourself is choosing your family. That's not separate. You are the family. You are the beating heart. In that wholeness that you are showing, that you are you're performing, it's contagious. People will pick up on that. Your kids will pick up on that. You're teaching from example and moment to moment. So remember that your kids don't just need your presence, they need your wholeness. They need your aliveness. And just ask yourself, I've wrote this down here too, like, what if your leadership starts with honesty and not endurance, not just trying to grind it out? Saying, hey, guys, I'm tired. I'm doing my best here, and I'm going to go out, So that leadership, to just being honest, to not feeling that need to be perfect, to that perfect provider. And like, you're not failing them if you learn to like tap into your truth. Again, you're showing them what it's like to be free. It's okay to lean into your truth and to show them what it's like. So, gentle mantra: I don't abandon my family by choosing my soul. I strengthen them by becoming whole. Whatever mantra you want to come up with, and just remind yourself, again, working on your subconscious thoughts, that vision of what you have of yourself here and here. I pointed to my head and my heart for those of you on the podcast. But becoming whole means becoming that person that can accept all parts of themselves. So that's what I have. And I just want you to know that I hope that this cracked something inside of you, just one small little crack, and that's good. And I mean, I think that's your soul's longing coming forward here too. And just, I want you to know that this show is just for men who are done performing again and ready to become and return as the man that they already are, that you're born to be. So that's what this is about. And I want to know more about your journey. I want to know more about what is it that you're working on, what you're struggling with, what's the challenge, what's important to you, as maybe perhaps growing as a dad, but perhaps just like growing as a man who looks at his life as a work of art. I just want you to know, again, my call to action to you is I want you to talk to me. Like, I want to work with you. This is what I do. I'm coming forward, and I can't stand where I'm at in my life doing menial stuff. I need to work on doing things that light me up inside. And that's why I started my business. I want to go deep with men about the real issues in all areas, physical, mental, emotional, all those things. I struggled for years thinking about like just do I want to work in physical health? No, do I want to work in mental health? And it just do I want to talk to them about their emotions? Like yes, yes, yes. Like, but I don't want to use the word holistic. And I've been through this so many different times in my mind. But the most important thing is that I keep coming back to, and I just love this about what I think about my purpose and why I do things. I want to make my life a living work of art, and I want to work with men that also want to make their midlife their masterpiece, to know that their life is their canvas and that everything you do is a brushstroke that just tends to your masterpiece. The way you can wake up every day excited to craft your masterpiece, to craft your life. It is a work of art in progress to where you have purpose built into each day without saying, I need to find out what my purpose is. It's to your purpose is just living that out and getting to work on if that's striving, if that's relaxing, it's just finding your flow, what works for you. And again, that's what lights me up. I want to work with men that want to work their lives as the work of art that it is. You know, so, and that includes all areas. We start in one area and it might flow into another. But the whole idea here is that we don't have to just start in just one area of life and then strategically go to another like it's a linear path. Everything's a cycle. Everything moves around. We just move naturally. We flow from area to area, and then we find the common thread between everything. It's exciting. It's like an adventure. It's going out into the mountains and just finding a trail and walking that trail and seeing where that leads. It always leads to somewhere else new, somewhere else to discover. It's fun as hell. And if you're at all interested in knowing where your life can go, and if you were interested in working with me to design your best life, a life that you feel good about physically, mentally, emotionally, then get a hold of me. Free call, spencermark.co. Visit me there. And we can set up a time. I'm gonna give you a design right off the bat. I'm gonna hear you. I want to hear your story. And then I'm gonna take a shitload of notes. And then I'm gonna create a plan based on what it is that you want. We're gonna get clear as we can. And you're gonna walk away from a free session with some idea of where you need to put your energy, your time, your effort, resources, anything that you need moving forward. And if you want to work on something serious and you're going to go deeper, I have one offer where I go deep with the right people for 6 months. But right now I'm running a deal to where that 6 months turns into the end of the year. So it's like 8 total months that we work together, one-on-one each week, plus one deep dive, like a 6-hour day where we go deep into one area where you really want to make change happen for yourself. And I work on kind of a retainer basis because it's not just session after session. It's what happens in between those sessions. So if that interests you and you want to work with someone who is like absolute geek about everything, physical, mental, emotional, and doing all the things and all the work, then I'm your guy. Let's find out. And again, you can apply. I have the link in the description where you can apply. But I just want you to know my calling and what I really want to do in life is to work with you to make your life a living work of art. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you next time.